Welcome to r/RedditRevenge. This is a story of someone getting back at someone with revenge after being wronged. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. The first story. I was a manager in a luxury auto service center and tried to help out an office employee. The second story. Got my dad a fake Rolex. Snobby coworker thinks it is legit. Treats dad better. The third story. Boss fired me, but did not know that I still had important files for him. The first story is, rules are rules. I was burned out in my career and decided to try retirement at the ripe old age of 38. The first 2 months were fantastic. The next 2 I tried to work on projects and keep busy, but I had too much energy with no outlet. I decided to go back to the auto industry, but I wanted a position that was low pressure and that wouldn't destroy my career if I bailed out. The first dealership saw my resume and just kinda laughed a little. Theirs seemed suspicious that I was a spy or informant. I removed all the engineering jobs and education from my resume and applied to a luxury dealership. They were exceptionally happy to offer me a position with long hours and great pay according to them. I was a mid-level manager in the service department and had 2 other managers above me. This was pretty much what I needed. It really cleared out all the stress from my previous jobs, and I started feeling like my old self. I really enjoyed aspects of the job, and I know the service manager liked my performance. After 6 months, the assistant service manager, sensing a shift in the service manager force, started trying to get me fired. It blew up in his face in the most hilarious way possible. Long story. He was fired and I was moved to assistant manager, which bumped my pay up to 25% of my previous job. Yay! I had a company toll pass that I used when I had to drive a customer's vehicle. We were very cautious about them paying tolls during road tests, etc. I kept this in my desk and occasionally loaned it out to the drivers who delivered customer vehicles. They were supposed to ask, but on weekends it seemed to be a free-for-all. They were always good about returning it though. One Monday I went to check a problem customer vehicle. I saw I had left my toll pass inside, so I drove it a bit and parked it. I went to put the toll pass in my desk, and there was already one in there. My mind started running through all the scenarios and it hit me. I had driven this customer vehicle a few days earlier, and they must have left their toll pass in the car. I had grabbed theirs and put it in my desk on Friday. Suddenly I remembered the delivery guys. I called them and they confirmed that they had used it all day Saturday. I called the toll company, and there was approximately $35 in charges to the toll pass. I had the option to pay directly with my credit card or add it to our company account. I chose the latter. Okay, long-winded backstory is complete. On with the petty revenge. I went to the office department and explained the situation to an older lady, Shirley, with a reputation of being mean. I told her I needed them to either contact the toll company or give me the password so I could add those charges. While I was there, she asked me to check her Plymouth PT Cruiser since it was overheating. She told me she would handle the toll situation and keep it on the DL, so the customer didn't get even more angry. We took one look at her car and realized the repairs were more than the car was worth. It needed a radiator, fan, tires, suspension work, AC repair, a full tune-up and service as well as an alignment. I thought since she was doing me a favor, although a small one, I would pull some strings. I called around to some friends and had some other employees do the same. By lunchtime, we had 4 new take-off tires. When a customer complains about tires, you often have to give them new ones, and then you're left with tires that have a few miles on them that you can't sell. A used radiator and fan, used AC compressor, etc. All free of charge from various friends and dealerships nearby. 2 of the hourly wage employees agreed to do the work when they didn't have anything to do, and finish it up after work in exchange for some pizza. The total cost for her repairs was going to be about $200. I called and told her we had sourced some used and free parts so her bill would only be $200. She was overjoyed at the news, but then told me she had informed management about the toll pass fiasco. Rules are rules. You can't just put your charges on the company toll account. Before I even had the chance to reply my Nextel, look it up, starts chirping. I was called into a meeting with my boss and his boss. Immediately, I'm met with accusations of using the customer's vehicle to take a weekend trip. I explained the situation, and after a few minutes of being told that we have to be more careful, they laughed it off and said they would have the office fix it as well, as get another toll pass for the delivery department. Problem solved. I walked out the door, called the guys who were doing the free work, and told them to stop immediately. I had them put the old tires back on and return it to the condition it was in when we got it. Fortunately, they had only changed 2 tires and drained the rusty water from her radiator. I went to a service advisor and had them write an estimate ticket for the work at full price with the employee discount. No used parts, no free parts, and definitely no free labor. I walked into the office and Shirley came waddling over saying how grateful she was that we could get her car fixed for cheap. She apologized for having to tell management and repeated her rules are rules line. I just smiled and said, I completely understand. Top management is going to contact you and have you do precisely what I asked earlier. Oh, by the way, we can't do that free work on your car. It turns out that it's a liability, and as you know, rules are rules. I then slid the price estimate ticket over to her and walked away. I returned the Goodwill parts to the other dealers and bought some pizza for the guys who tried to help. She actually paid the full price for the repairs and talked so much trash about me right up to the day she was fired for refusing to do some office tasks I needed done. Adios, you racist old bag. The next story is Dad and Daughter Tag Team Petty Revenge. To begin this harrowing journey to a pretty petty revenge, I would like to inform the reader that the end result was nowhere in my father's or my mind to begin with. Background for my father. My dad was born and raised as a cowboy, and while growing up had very little means. He oftentimes had to step up and be the man of the house, and always put his mother's and sister's needs first. This led to him being someone with whom earthly goods resounded very little with, and only now that he's past 50 is starting to enjoy his disposable income. For goodness' sake, the man has had the same hairbrush for 30 to 40 odd years, cause if it ain't broke, don't replace it. For the past 33-ish years, my dad has worked a backbreaking job with a road construction company, and is set to retire soon. Background on me. I'm a service member stationed in the Middle East, which is famous for its souks. A souk is like a giant flea market, and used to have a ton of local crafters selling their goods. Now the souks I've been to mostly have salesmen trying to hawk knockoffs from China. Sir, ma'am, for you, best price, my friend. Right. My father and I have extremely similar humor, so I decided for his birthday to sarcastically buy him a fake Rolex. The scene is set. The watch arrives, and it takes a while for my dad to get it working. It's gold with a thick band and a couple of cogs steadily moving. My dad has told me that as long as he remembers to set the time every day, it works well enough for being what it is. That's high praise coming from him. Now, throughout the years in his job, my dad has slowly transitioned from being the young buck standing on the hot asphalt doing the grunt work to earning his place in the pecking order, to get to ride on the truck. This is a position in his crews that comes with earned trust and respect for that rider's knowledge in the biz. Now that he's there, he can occasionally wear that watch at work without fearing it getting damaged too badly, but if it gets scuffed, oh well. I know he only values it because it's an inside joke for the two of us. Now, most of his crew was let in on the gag that it's a total fake, which makes wearing it on the job even better. Enter our antagonist. As I'm sure you can imagine, this is a job and culture where respect is earned, and if someone were to come in and demand it because they have a flimsy piece of paper, they've already lost it. So this guy, let's call him Guy, has been with the company as an inspector for about 5 years, and isn't well liked for many reasons. He thinks extremely highly of himself, has distaste for the proletariat workers, like my father, and always tries to rub elbows with upper management, while wearing flashy clothes that the road workers definitely couldn't afford. Also, he tries to tell guys with 30+ years of experience how they're doing their jobs incorrectly. At a meeting towards the end of last season, my dad is really thinking about making it his last year. Everyone knows the union is trying to get him to stay on, as there aren't many with his level of experience left in the game. Guy comes waltzing in and starts humble bragging about a recent raise he was given, after he found discrepancies with how workers were using company vehicles. Leaving the site to get lunch during the day, stopping at grocery stores and fast food on their way home, etc. And for an additional course he went through. Woo frickin' who for him. He gets around to moseying over to my dad and brings it up yet again. My dad just nods along, wanting him to get it over with, and brings his canister of coffee up to take a sip. My dad is a giant of a man, so his wrist must have been at about eye level for this gentleman at this point. Guy's eyes light up. Whoa, where'd you get that? I've always wanted a Rolex. My dad, the clever smart A that he is, spews out some nonsense that the union was really grateful for all the work he did, and really wants him to stick around for another year, and that it would be such a loss to the company and union, yada yada yada. His crew members around him that were listening in joined without a hitch. Oh, CWG father, that thing is nice. The gold really brings out your eyes. We all wanted to get you something bigger. We hope you'll accept it. Guy just couldn't get his eyes to get any smaller than the size of baseballs, or so I was told. He buzzed around my dad the rest of the meeting, and really started treating him with more respect since then. This'll be my dad's last year, and I was so glad that I could bring that simple enjoyment to him and his crew. I think he's too sentimentally attached to it now, cause his baby girl got him it. Also, this interaction probably endeared the watch to him even more. He's the best. The last story is, boss fires me for no reason. Got what she deserves. I worked at a company straight out of high school that deals with sports, workwear, as well as branding. I went to the interview for a storeman responsible for the cage, a place where we kept orders that were ready to be delivered, as well as orders that are still awaiting payment. Starting in early 2018, and it went well for the first 2 months. Then I found boxes of orders from more than 6 years ago, and asked my boss about it. Her answer was to move me from the warehouse to the financial department to find out why they're still there. Now, first, I know almost nothing about finance. Secondly, as a guy of over 2 meters tall, sitting at a desk in a small office just doesn't work, but it came with a new job title. Finance administrator, whatever that is, and a pay raise. So fine with me getting paid more for the same job, and all I have to do is go through some old papers as well. Sign me up. So, over the next couple of months, I made a list. I went through the whole cage and found more old orders. I found more than 80 orders, totaling over a couple million in value. Every time I figured out why they were still there, I added the reason to the list, as well as saying what had happened to the items. My boss would look good in front of the owner. If there was no reason as to why it was still there, or why it was there to begin with, my boss took that box, and I never thought of it again. I just updated the list with which boss took that order. So when I finally had a reason for every order older than 1 month that was still there, I got a raise again, and went back to the original job I was hired for still, with the finance administrator title on my contract. I was suddenly called to my boss's office, where I was told I was useless and not doing my job, and I was promptly fired. And here is where my revenge comes in. That list I had was on my computer, and the only copy of the list was in my personal email, as I would work from home sometimes. I hand-wrote the list, and then typed it at home, so when I went to hand in my laptop, I made sure to remove everything that I did from it. No list, no emails, nothing left. I then contacted a lawyer to ask for advice. My dad recommended I do this, saying they have no valid reason for firing me. My lawyer had a field day with the case. I got more than 2 years worth of pay, my full contracted time, as well as an apology from my B of an ex-boss, but it doesn't end there. I contacted the owner of the company and informed him that I still had that list, and how B had fired me without reason, cost the company money, and how she took stock if I couldn't find a reason as for why it was still there. He informed me that he will look into this, and I sent him the list out of good faith. He was a nice guy the few times I met him. Finally today I was talking to a friend that still works there. I was told that the police had shown up, and had dragged that B away in cuffs for stealing stock. Edit. Okay, so because the list was not required for the job, and I just used it to make it easier for myself. It didn't contain any personal information of the company, or the client, just stuff like order, NR, item details, and reason. Pulled twice, order was canceled, never paid, and so on. And date. I hope you love these stories. Subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on notifications.